Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel. It's me, Chris Brooks. Today we have a great guest on. He's Jonathan Tild, and he is a mayoral candidate running for the West Yorkshire area. Jonathan and I would seem to have the very similar stance when it comes to morals, when it comes to government overreach. And I was really interested to hear what Jonathan has to say. So without further ado, welcome to the channel, Jonathan.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I'm standing as an independent candidate in the West Yorkshire mayoral election on the 2nd of May this year, and so we're getting the campaign off the ground. If you can help, if you're in West Yorkshire or close to West Yorkshire and you want to help, make contact through my website. I mean, essentially, I'm not. I wasn't involved in politics prior to 2020. I had a political interest and political awareness, but I wasn't formally involved. I set up a political party to try and push back against the state agenda, against the state tyranny, and particularly the state injections, or the mandation of state injections. The party was Freedom Alliance. We did extremely well in terms of candidates. We never got very many votes, but we, over the course of 2 years that I was leading it, I think we had something like 350 candidates in total, getting up to about 12-13% of the vote, but no more than that. Nobody got elected. Full slates in the Scottish and Welsh parliamentary elections back in 2021, which, given that we were only registered as a political party 6 weeks before those elections, was quite a fraud, but an impressive achievement. But the realisation that dawned on me is that there's more enthusiasm for people voting independent, to be honest. So essentially what I and others are trying to do now through what's called the Vote Freedom Project is to use elections to push back against the tyranny. But to do it as independents. One, because from a sort of purely sort of tactical point of view, independents get more votes than party candidates, and as you're aware yourself, because a lot of people are sick of the whole idea of political parties, the whole idea of leaders and chairmen of parties and all of that. So the notion of independence gets more votes. I mean, in the council elections here last time, I increased my vote by 400%, just by standing as an independent, not as a Freedom Alliance candidate. So I didn't do anything else different at all, but got 4 times as many votes. But also the notion of independence fits well with the freedom community, because we're not about big organisational structures, we're not about leaders and all the rest of it. So the notion of standing as independents is a much better fit with what we're trying to get, and also it's much less open to infiltration and capture by sinister powers, because with the party you can quite easily capture the whole party just by capturing 1 or 2 people at the top of it, whereas with a sort of loose federation of independents, that's impossible. You would have to infiltrate and effectively capture every individual that was a candidate, and that's much harder task for them. So those are the reasons we stand as independents now. The process is much the same. It's not necessarily about getting elected. We do need to start getting people elected. You're a step ahead of me on this, in that you actually have got elected yourself. So well done there. But essentially what we did in Freedom Alliance, and what I'm still doing with the mayoral election, is using elections as a platform to try and communicate, telegraph what's going on in the wider world. Particularly with the mayoral election, you get part of it is you get a page in a booklet that goes to every letterbox in West Yorkshire, 1 million+ letterboxes. And those do get read. I mean, the stats show that about 15-20% of people read them. So there's an opportunity. And it'll be 1 page of that booklet that'll be given to me. Each of the candidates gets 1 page. And I will make a bold statement about how they're trying to use the climate fraud to control and corral us into 15-minute cities. And you're permitted to do that. As long as you don't slander any individual. You can pretty much say what you want in those statements. We don't get that opportunity otherwise. If I stick out a press release, the press ignore it. So it is a golden opportunity to get a message in front of quite a lot of eyes. Whether those people then go and vote for you is a secondary thing. I mean, we do have to get people elected now, I think, because the agenda is rolling forward, and one of the ways to frustrate and throw a few spanners in the works is to have elected officials who can disrupt from within. So we do need to get elected, and I do want to get elected. But it isn't just about getting elected. It's about using the platform of the election to communicate.
No, absolutely. No, that's good. And you are seeing that people in your area are, like you said, people are fed up with the two-party politics. And let's be honest, there isn't really any difference between the two parties anymore, other
No,
than
none whatsoever.
colour.
Nor the other minor parties. I mean, I would, and a lot of people are drifting across to reform, and I would really caution against that. I mean, one of the Reform UK policies, for example, is to exempt NHS staff from income tax. And this is the start of they're using this as the start of the segregation of society into an essential and a non-essential camp, which they tried to do at the start of lockdown. Obviously, essential people could go wherever they wanted, non-essential get back in your houses and stay in there. And Reform are facilitating this. One of their leading policies is on their website. You can go and check it out. Is that they will exempt for 3 years. They will exempt NHS staff from paying income tax. Now, once you've done that, you're exempting teachers and police and all the rest of it, and you've suddenly got the sort of public sector bureaucracy, security, treated as essential. It's okay, you don't have to pay tax, but everybody else can pay tax. And Reform have been used to facilitate that policy, and I would really, really caution. I mean, I know people, genuine people in the freedom movement who are standing as Reform candidates, and I would caution them against doing that, and I would definitely caution people against voting for Reform, because they're just an extension of the uni-party system, in my opinion.
No, that makes. I didn't know about that, so thanks for enlightening me on that. As far as like parties go at the moment, the only one that I really have any time for is the Heritage Party, because they
Yes, I mean, I don't want
the only one who hasn't.
Doing the rounds around slagging off all the individual parties. I mean, I'm now opposed to the concept of political parties. I led one for 2 years, so I've seen it from the inside. I don't think it's the right way to do it. Personally, the only parties I've got any sort of traction with now would be the Libertarians and particularly the Scottish Libertarians, actually. So those two parties. Heritage, I know David Curtin well, he's a nice bloke, but they are socially very conservative. They do want to turn the clock back to the 1950s and have everybody living in nuclear families. And that's not how I live my life, and it's not how modern society lives its life. I mean, freedom for me is for everybody to live their life however they want to, as long as they're not causing harm to others. We shouldn't be dictating that people can't get married if they're homosexual, for example. I think that's if heterosexual people can get married, then so should homosexual people.
My only caveat there, really, with that is I think we're in danger of being too inclusive. Like the sexualization of children in schools at the moment is horrific.
No, except that, but
this is all part of the GLBT movement.
Yeah, I don't think you can blame gay marriage for that. If I'm honest, I think freedom is freedom for everybody to do whatever you want, as long as you're not harming anybody else. That's the fundamental.
We just seem to be going down a track where everyone else's, i.e. the majority of people, their freedom of speeches and stuff are being curtailed for the very few. So that's what I mean. I think there's a danger. I agree with what you're saying, but we need a balance. And at the moment, I don't see that balance. I see it's promoting this agenda, which I think is so damaging towards children in regards to the school and education system. What's your views on what the kids are being taught at school at the moment?
I think it's horrific. I mean, there's way too much sexualization and sexual education within the education system. I think it does vary dramatically from school to school and area to area. So there's a danger that we latch onto the very worst examples and assume that's the case across the board. And I don't think it is. I mean, but certainly, from my own kids' experience, I've seen. I mean, I tend to keep kids out of the equation. I don't really talk about them, but I've seen stuff that's not great.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. And with regards to like the 20-minute cities and all the net zero stuff, what's your policies there? What are you kind of pledging to go forward if you?
I mean, if elected, I will absolutely frustrate the implementation of these within West Yorkshire. I personally think at the minute what's happening is the infrastructure is being put in place to to get the 15-minute cities up and running. And mayors are a key part of that. This is not going to be done through Parliament. The general election, the parliamentary constituencies are a little sideshow that's put there to distract us. It's the mayoral positions. It's Khan in London that's doing this, and it will be Tracy Brabin, if she gets re-elected in West Yorkshire, will be doing this. And at the minute, they're just sneaking in all the infrastructure. If you look at Bradford, for example, which of the 5 West Yorkshire boroughs is probably the most advanced in terms of 15-minute cities, they've got clean air zones. Doesn't apply to private cars at the minute, it just applies to commercial vehicles. But once you've got the cameras and the infrastructure and the notion there, then you can quite easily start pushing it onto private cars as well, and some private cars to start with, and then all of a sudden, all private cars. I mean, it's what they did with the congestion charge, which was renamed from the congestion charge to the clean air charge in London. Starting with a very tiny, small area, just the sort of central city of London to start with, and then gradually expanded outwards. And now, after a couple of years, it's the whole of London now.
I'm pretty sure that's
and it's
how
not a congestion
road tax
charge.
started as well.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's what they do. They get the infrastructure in place. They get cameras particularly in place. I mean, Kirklees is where I live, to take another West Yorkshire district. One of their stated environmental policies is to prioritise traffic lights for electric vehicles. Now, I mean, you just think of the actual cost of sort of rearranging every single junction. So that, I mean, I don't even know how you do it. It's a nonsensical
I don't think they can realistically,
even from their perspective. But nobody knows that. But that's in there. It's on page 83 of their environmental campaign document, or whatever it's called. And again, that's where elections come in, because I can stick that in an election leaflet and say, Kirklees are doing this. And I did do that last time at the council elections. And people say, you're talking nonsense. You're talking nonsense. Where have you got that from? Reference it back to the official council document and show them that I'm not talking nonsense. So I think at the minute we've got this slow creep, part of which is getting mayors in place. I mean, these mayors have sprung up all over the country. We never used to have them. It used to be Parliament that was sovereign, and Parliament was where the laws were made. But that's becoming, as I say, a little sideshow. So they're getting these mayors in place, and they're getting the physical infrastructure in place to herd people into these 15-20-minute cities. And that's where we're at, and that's why it's so important we get on the inside and disrupt it from the inside. Because if I'm Mayor of West Yorkshire, I can start to stop that happening. I mean, it's complicated because mayors all have slightly different powers in different parts of the country. So I wouldn't have the same powers that Sadiq Khan has in London, but I would have quite extensive powers to start to disrupt that, and again to use the position as a platform to communicate what's going on. Because when I'm Mayor of West Yorkshire, they won't. The Yorkshire Post won't be able to ignore me. If I put out a statement on 15-minute cities, they will print it. So that's where I think we're at. We're just trying to throw spanners into the works, so they're slowly getting off the ground.
That's good. So who are you running against then?
Well,
much competition.
Well, I don't know. I mean, as I say, it's always very difficult with mayoral elections, because with any elections, because people say that. I mean, when I was running Freedom Alliance, to say the Heritage Party were one of the worst offenders on this. You would come to agreements with people that you weren't standing in places, and then suddenly the ballot papers would come out and you find that other people were standing who said they weren't standing. So you've always got that complicated. Almost part of the game. I don't have a huge problem with that happening. At the minute, as far as I'm aware, the only declared candidate is Tracy Brabin, who's the Labour current mayor. I mean, I'm sure the Conservatives and the Lib Dems and Greens will have candidates as well, and I don't know that there won't be another independent candidate. But at the minute, it's only me and her that have declared themselves as candidates. As far as I'm aware, it's fast moving, and it could have changed in the last 24 hours or so. But in a way, does it matter who else stands there? Once you accept the underpinning climate fraud, which again Reform UK do, they believe that human activity is causing global warming. Once you accept that, then you're part of the Uni Party in effect, aren't you? You've got to attack that fraud in the same way that we attacked COVID. COVID isn't killing vast numbers of people. You've got to attack the underlying fraud. Rather than just
there's no scientific basis to prove any of the claims that
it's nonsense.
Humans are accelerating
it's nonsense. I mean, in terms of warmth, it was warmer in the medieval warm period, and 500-600 years ago it was warmer in Roman times.
Absolutely, and this is why they only go back 150 years, because if they went further back, we'd see that the carbon is much higher.
Start from 1860, which was the coldest year for 10,000 years or something. It's obviously going to get a bit warmer from there, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But and nobody's ever explained the mechanism how human carbon emissions cause global heating anyway. And human carbon emissions are only 3% of carbon in the atmosphere. So how come that 3% causes increased heat, but the 97% that occurs naturally doesn't cause increased heat. It's the same thing. Carbon dioxide
what is it? It's something like 0.04% carbon, and if it drops to 0.02%, life stops.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're at the edge of my biochemical knowledge here, but yes, yeah. I mean, as I understand it, the risk is too little carbon dioxide, not too much. Yeah,
exactly. And so they are literally trying to starve a nation.
Yeah,
they're incentivizing the farmers. It's gone from £80 per acre to not grow food to £250 an acre to not grow food. So with incentives like that, whilst we're getting boatloads of other mouths to feed, it's just going to be carnage. But I would say, and I think this will help you in your election, is that I do think 2024 is going to be a pivotal year. I think there's a lot more people waking up. There's a lot more people awake now in 2024 than there was, say, in 2020. Probably more so than there was last year when I ran.
Yes.
So I think you've got that on your side for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, and the climate alarmism is a much easier subject to campaign on than being. I mean, I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm a proud anti-vaxxer. I was an anti-vaxxer before the COVID pandemic came along, and I don't mind that label. But it's hard work campaigning as anti-vaxxer. It really is hard work. Whereas campaigning as countering as being a bit of a climate change skeptic is not hard work, because a lot of people are fundamentally not buying into it. Is what I'm seeing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having issues with. I mean, with my little girl, we want to get her a hospital, not hospital, a doctor's appointment today because she's had a cough for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're adamant for her to take a lateral flow test, and I said she's not doing it. She is not doing it. So I'd like to know where they stand legally there, or law.
Yeah, well, I forget who it was. I think it was UK citizens used the NHS constitution quite effectively in the height of the sort of dark days in 2021, because the NHS constitution, which was written back in 1948, I think, again, edge of my knowledge here, but I think basically says that it guarantees equal access to everybody, regardless of anything. And so, therefore, to start discriminating against people on the basis of what medication they've taken or not taken breaches the NHS constitution. And I think there was some success with challenging GPs on that, saying you're in breach of the NHS constitution.
No, that's it. That's good. That's good to know. I'll have to dig that out and send that to
Yeah. Don't go quoting me on that one.
No. That's good. That's good. So, how is your campaign going then? Are you getting a lot of support? Are you feeling...
Not enough, if I'm brutally honest. I mean, a lot of it is online at the minute. We are going to start doing campaign days out in the various towns. I mean, it's not like the council elections or even the parliamentary by-elections I've done before. The area is so vast. There's 2.3 million people in West Yorkshire and over 1 million households. You can't go knocking on every door. You just literally just scrape the surface. We will do town centre campaigning, but most of the campaign is based on that booklet, the booklet that Royal Mail deliver for free. So it's the statement in there is what we're pinning everything on. Once the campaign gets going properly, then the certain legal rules start to cut in about the press giving you not equal coverage but fair coverage. So I will get a bit of coverage. It won't equal what Tracy Braben gets, but I will get some coverage in the regional press. And yeah, I mean, I hate to have the begging bowl out, but we need donations. It's expensive to run a mayoral campaign. It's a £5,000 deposit for starters. So it's not like the local council elections. We do need money. There's a donations button on the website. So please help.
If you send me the links to your website,
yes, I will. Yeah,
video description and
but yeah, people to come and help campaign, which generally by and large, as long as the weather's okay, is quite good fun. And we get set up a store. We have lots of leaflets. Get engaged in conversation, go around the local businesses. I mean, I've done this lots and lots of times now in various different election campaigns. If you get a group 8, 9, 10 of you, it's not a bad day out. So I would encourage people to get in touch with me and the others involved in the campaign to help them come and do that. Because we've used. I think the freedom movement has used social media very, very powerfully to connect and to build communities and networks. But we do need to take that out into the real world. I think the things that have really got longevity are the groups that meet in person. I mean, I'm involved in groups in Huddersfield that meet up in person. And I think that's the key. So those that are sat at home, the keyboard warriors, I would encourage you to take the first step outside and come and connect with us. And joining us on a campaign day is, it is a really effective and quite enjoyable way of doing that.
I have to say, I mean, we use the term outreach. We were all independents, but we all had the same tagline because we started off as a Stand in the Park group. Have you heard of Stand in the Park? So that's what we started off as. But then obviously because of the Thetford history, we went with the Thomas Paine Independence.
Yeah.
Because Thomas Paine was
and
the rights of man and all that kind of stuff. But I have to say, talking to people out in the streets was so beneficial, because you're also hearing lots of information about other parties from other members, and so it's it was
you've got to do
quite
it.
an eye-opener.
You've got to do it.
And it's probably the cheapest way of doing it as well.
Oh, it is. You can just see the table and go and set up a handful of leaflets, and people will come and talk to you. And that's what we're trying to do with Vote Freedom, really, is to try and have the best bits of a party, the support and a bit of structure and a bit of organisation, but you are independent at the end of the day. So anybody out there is planning on standing in the general election as a freedom orientated, I mean, we do have certain principles. We won't just support any independent, but anybody who's looking to be a sort of freedom orientated independent and is planning to stand in the general election, make contact with us at Vote Freedom, because we will provide practical help as to how to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. Because obviously in Thetford we've also started a sovereign, I want to say sovereign council, but that's like an oxymoron. So we're changing it to Sovereign Council Watch.
Right.
So the Thetford Town Council, obviously, which I'm a part of, they have their meetings on the last Tuesday of every month, and the Sovereign Council Watch have their meetings on the first Monday of every month. So they kind of go to the meetings and then report back on those meetings. But we're finding what we need is to educate the people as well as to what goes on within the councils, and the power does lie with the people. We live in an upside down world where we think it's government, councils, then the people. But really, the system was built the other way around. It was built that the people decide what they want. They then go to the council and say what they want. And then the council would go to the government and say, this is what the people want, implement it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We need to recapture that. They serve us, not the other way around. And I think that's, elections do give us the opportunity to do that. I think it is within our gift to go and do that, because they don't like elections. They feel uncomfortable. You can see when you go to the counts, they're uncomfortable, more uncomfortable now we're standing as independents, because they know that we might actually get elected. But we might upset their little gravy train for them by getting one or two people elected, and they really don't like it.
This is it.
Well, it's whenever we've been to the council, particularly in Huddersfield, it's interesting. The other parties are all big mates with each other. They're all gathered around together. The Labour, the Tory, the Liberals. You think this, supposed to be an open warfare with each other. When they get to the count outside of the cameras, they're all having coffees together and chatting and laughing. But they totally ignore us and other small independents, because we're outside the system. They don't like us. They don't want us playing in their little game.
No, I figured that out quite quickly, I have to say, because our Thetford Town Council is a majority Labour council, and so I'm always going to be. I could vote against anything and everything, but I will never have a majority. What I can do in there is really kind of limited and frustrating for that reason, really. But but
you've got a platform. You've got a platform. And I think one of the sort of uni party's big weaknesses, particularly at a local level, is some of these other councillors, because they're not whipped. It's not a salary like the MPs. So I mean, we've had quite a lot of sort of background contact from councillors, Labour and Tory, who said, "Can you tell us more about what you're doing? Can you what's going on? Can you explain this?" So I think they've got a real weakness with some of their existing councillors who are waking up, to use the terminology. And these people are harder to control, because they're not paid, they're not on a salary, and they're not subject to the same level of whipping as the MPs. So what I would suggest you to do Therefore, is keep speaking the truth, keep speaking your truth to these people, and you just don't know. You might be getting through to one or two of them, And that's all you need to do is to switch one or two, and then you know, a year down the road, they're not a Labour councillor, they're an independent councillor as well.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And like you say, with the voting, I've noticed a lot of people have gone from a party to an independent stance for that reason. So like I say, I do think there's a change in the air, and I do think this year is going to be a pivotal change for that. But listen, thank you very much for coming on. It's been great talking with you. It's been great getting to know you and your ethics and how you plan to start correcting some of the wrongs in your area. And I wish you all the very best with your campaign for the elections coming up.
Cheers, thanks, Chris, and great chatting to you. And you know, full of admiration, you've got elected, which I've never managed to do yet. So, so perhaps I should be interviewing you, and you should be telling me how to do it. Would be a better way around.
I reckon you'll be all right this time.
Yeah. We do better each time, and as I say, it is largely about the platform rather than getting elected. It's just that opportunity to put a statement in front of every set of eyes in West Yorkshire, basically. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And if you ever want me to share anything, then I'll be happy to do so. And maybe have you on a bit closer to the time and see how things are going.
Yeah. Perhaps another one.
You've won your seat.
Well, yes. Another one a week before would be quite good, because you will, obviously you will have listeners in West Yorkshire, and one of the big sort of bugbears within trying to do elections from within. And I don't like elections. I think they're rubbish as well, but it is something we've got. It's one thing we've got. But one of the big bugbears is the freedom community, by and large, don't vote. And if they did vote, I mean, there's whichever set of figures you use, but there's 18 to 20% of people have had no state injections at all. So if that 18 to 20% actually got out and voted, we would have MPs elected. That's enough. Given the low turnouts, that's enough to get people elected. That would be enough to get me elected as Mayor of West Yorkshire. So if everybody in West Yorkshire who hasn't had the state injections went out and voted for me, I will be Mayor of West Yorkshire, and I will then disrupt the 15-minute city agenda for them. But by and large, the freedom community don't vote is the problem. And I would just encourage you to hold your nose. It's not a great system. It's rubbish. I agree with you. But it's one thing we've got. Just go and put your cross on the piece of paper. And I and others will then, fight for you and on your behalf.
Brilliant. Good place to end. Thank you very much again. And I hope everyone watching has enjoyed this. Let me know what you think in the comments as always. And until next time, I will speak to you again soon. Bye for now.
Great. Thanks.